Hey, what's up everyone? The Dan Sandwich here, and today I'm back again in NBA 2K23, and in today's video we are going to determine scientifically once and for all which era in NBA 2K is the best era as far as who has the best players, who can build the best team with those best players, and who can beat the other eras in this way. What I mean by that is I took the 10 best players from every era, the Magic versus Bird era, the Jordan era, the Kobe era, and modern day. I put them all on one team, and then I took those teams and put them in each other era. That way they can play each other and also play each other in each era. Because as you might know, every era in 2K has their own specific rule changes, different play styles, and things like that. So it wouldn't be quite fair to take the players from the 80s and put them in modern day and expect them to play the same way that we play today, since they're not used to playing that way, and vice versa. So that's why, this is a little bit more scientific. We're going to test every one of these teams in every era and use that information to determine who is going to be the best, era to play, in 2K23. The other thing I'm doing is I'm putting all of these teams in the same division, so that they play each other the most possible number of times throughout the course of the regular season. And then I'm also changing the playoff rules, so seeding is dependent on overall record, not conference. So even though they're all in the same division, they can still face each other in the NBA Finals. I'm doing other stuff too, like I'm going to optimize the rosters, because for whatever reason they want to start Ja Morant over Steph Curry and Luka Doncic in the modern day team. Which, I love Ja Morant. I think he's an awesome player, but, I think who the best point guard is on that team. And other things like that. I'm going to turn off, like, progressive fatigue and, morale and things like that, so that, you have the most even playing field, for all these teams. So yeah, I'm going to jump into the Magic versus Bird era. I'm going to kind of set the stage, simulate through the regular season, and then we'll see what the playoff bracket looks like with all of these, eras teams, basically. All right, so here we are in the Magic versus Bird era for the first run at, finding out who's going to be the best of these teams. I was not able to customize the league in the previous era. I don't know if that's something I can do in the upcoming eras, but at least for the Magic versus Bird era, I wasn't able to change teams around so they could put them in the right divisions and stuff like that. So whatever, that's something I'll have to factor in. So it's not going to be perfect. I guess I could have went through the process of actually putting them all on in the same division, but that's a lot of work. But anyway, here are your teams. So starting with the Magic versus Bird era, you've got Larry Bird, Moses Malone, Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Isaiah Thomas, George Gervin, Robert Parrish, Julius Erving, Sidney Moncrief, Adrian Dantley, and that's your 10 best players. So everyone in this team is a 90 or above. So they got a really, really good squad here. For some reason, they wanted to have Magic Johnson coming off the bench, which I fixed. I put him in the starting lineup alongside Isaiah Thomas, because I wanted to have every team have their 5 best players in the starting lineup, as long as it made sense. Because you got a lot of these teams, especially like with the modern era, there's so many forwards on that team, it's kind of hard to balance things out. But that's kind of what happens here. But yeah, that's your Boston Celtics, who are the Magic versus Bird era. I put everyone on the team of whoever was the highest rated player of that era. So the Celtics are the Magic versus Bird era. Obviously the Bulls are going to be the Jordan era. Obviously the Lakers are the Kobe era. And then for the modern era, Giannis is the highest rated player in 2K for the modern era. So I have him on the Milwaukee Bucks. Speaking of the Jordan era, here we have that team. So we obviously have Michael Jordan, David Robinson, Karl Malone, Clyde Drexler, Patrick Ewing, John Stockton, Larry Bird, Hakeem Olajuwon, Scottie Pippen, and Dominique Wilkins. Now for the rest of the NBA, I just made them all like 65 or lower overall, so they're not going to get in the way of these teams, because they don't have like the random low seed in the playoffs knocking off the high seed as you oftentimes do in 2K, especially since some of the teams in these eras, like, they may not have a top 10 player, but they have a really good team otherwise. Like the Cavaliers, for example, in the Jordan era, they didn't have a top 10 player on their team, but they had like 2 or 3 guys in the top 20. So that would be a team that would be kind of tough to leave, hanging around, because they might, knock off one of our teams potentially, just because they're still a really, really good team. Moving on to the Kobe era, we have the Los Angeles Lakers, and you have a 3-way tie for the best player on that team with Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant, and Shaquille O'Neal. So depending on how you sort it, I mean, usually Kobe Bryant comes up on top, but whatever reason, I think it's because Kobe has the most badges out of all these players, which, I don't know, I feel like Shaq should have more badges, but whatever. And then you have Kevin Garnett, Tracy McGrady, Allen Iverson, Dirk Nowitzki, Jason Kidd, Vince Carter, and Ben Wallace at the end of the bench. I think this is the most top-heavy team, because you have the most players in the 97 and up range, but you also have the most players, well, I guess tied for the most. You have the lowest rated player in this simulation with Ben Wallace being the lowest rated player, but you also have 3 of the highest rated players as well, so it might balance out that way. I think they also have the advantage of their 3 best players all play different positions. The only thing that's tough is you have Kevin Garnett coming off the bench. He's your 4th best player because he plays the same position as Tim Duncan and Shaquille O'Neal. And then you have the modern era, which you might see the negative age glitch happening over there, which I kind of cover ad nauseum in my previous video. But yeah, here we have the current era, and this is the most, I think, stacked team, because they have nobody lower than 93 overall. So that's obviously going to be an advantage to them, but they also have maybe the least balanced team, because you have 2 centers in your top 4. You got a lot of wing players, and no shooting guard at all. So this is maybe the hardest team to balance. But again, you're probably familiar with all these guys. You have Giannis, Steph Curry, Jokic, Embiid, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Luka Doncic, Kawhi Leonard, Jason Tatum, and John Morant. So those are the squads we have going into this video, or this, I guess this video. It'll be the same 4 teams in every era, and at least in the modern era, I'll be able to get them all in the same division. But I may not be able to do that for any of these other ones. So it'll be interesting to see what happens as far as overall standings. But yeah, let's. I'm gonna start simulating this season, and then we'll get to the playoffs, and we'll see what happens there. I also turned off trades, and I turned off something. I turned off progressive fatigue and stuff like that. So it's gonna be one of those things where you're not gonna have players moving around and stuff like that. But yeah, I'll see you when the playoffs start. All right, so Larry Bird wins the MVP in his own era. That's fitting. Rookie of the year doesn't really matter. Kevin Garnett is the 6th man of the year. That makes sense. I mean, I think he's the best player that we had coming off the bench on any one of these teams. So that makes a lot of sense. That doesn't make sense that like one of the guys on a different team was defensive player of the year. Okay, whatever. Luka Doncic is most improved. That, I think, whenever you import a player from modern day into a previous era, they usually win most improved player for some reason. Don Nelson, he's the coach of the Milwaukee Bucks, I'm pretty sure. They went 80-2. Now, they would have had to face actually the most teams, because the only Western Conference team is the Lakers from the Kobe era. So they would have had to face the Bulls and the Celtics, and they went 80-2. So that's kind of crazy that the modern era team is seems to have the best record. But I'll take a closer look at that in a minute here. Your All-NBA first team, you got Michael Jordan, Luka Doncic, Larry Bird, LeBron James, and Kareem. So you got 2 guys from the modern era, 2 guys from the era in which we are in this video, the Magic versus Bird era, this first segment, and then you have Michael Jordan here from the Jordan era, obviously. So nobody from the Kobe era on All-NBA first team, but that is addressed by the All-NBA second team. You have Kobe, Garnett, and Tim Duncan all on the All-NBA second team. And you got Clyde Drexler here from the Jordan era, and then you've got Jokic from the modern era. And then the third team, once again, you have dominated by the Kobe era. So let's keep. I want to keep track of who has the most All NBA players from every era as well. I'm gonna be keeping track of like this stuff to see, you know, if there's any tiebreakers, or for example, that's gonna help, you know, break those ties. So I'm gonna write down to see from each era who had the most All NBA selections, and I'll kind of rank them by first, second, and third team. So. All right, here we are going to look at the standings for the Magic versus Bird era. And ironically, that team did the worst out of our 4 era teams. So we had the Milwaukee Bucks go 80-2. And again, being in the Eastern Conference, they did have to face the Jordan era and the Magic versus Bird era more often than like the Lakers did with the Kobe era. But yeah, you had the modern era finish first in the standings, followed by the Kobe era, followed by the Jordan era, followed by the Magic versus Bird era, which I think is really, really interesting that you have the team constructed from the players from the era in which we're simulating, finishing the worst out of the 4 teams. And then it goes in reverse chronological order in terms of records. So you have the most recent players finishing best, the most recent after that finishing second, and so on and so forth. So I find that to be really interesting. But, you know, we'll see how that affects the playoffs. Obviously, I was able to make it so that, you know, each of these teams was ranked by record. So, you know, the conference doesn't matter in that respect. So we have, you know, the Bucks being the first seed, of course, Lakers second seed, Bulls third seed, and the Celtics being the 4th seed. Obviously, we're just going to simulate through the round to get to the conference finals, because that's where we're going to see these teams face each other, and of course that's what happens. So I'll take it game by game, and then I will because I want to see some of this action take place on court, but I this is going to probably take a little while to actually do. So I am going to see if there are any game 7s. So we have the Celtics and the Magic versus Bird era going up 2-1 against the modern day Milwaukee Bucks. And then you have the Jordan era up 3-0 on the Kobe era Lakers. And the Jordan era sweeps the Kobe era. So a little bit of an upset there. And then we have an upset brewing over here as well. The Bucks tied up 2-2. And the modern era goes up 3-2. Can we get a game 7? We do not. So we have the modern era versus the Jordan era in the NBA Finals for the first year of this simulation. Once again, we'll simulate game by game and see if there's a game 7, 2-1, 3-1. So the modern era looks like they're going to take it. So we have the modern era and LeBron James winning the first of these championships. So that's, you know, I mean, they had the best regular season record. And like I said, they have the best team overall. But, you know, things can happen. We'll see if changing eras changes that at all. But, you know, I would not be surprised if the modern era did take, you know, all of these championships. So I'm going to record this data, and then I will see you in the Jordan era. All right, so simulated through the Jordan era version of this, and Larry Bird wins MVP again. So that's, I think that's kind of something to keep an eye on. Kevin Garnett, 6th Man of the Year again. David Robinson wins Defensive Player of the Year now. And Luka Doncic, Most Improved Player again. Let's see. What? There's a 73 overall player on the All-NBA first team. What did he do? He 15, 12, 3. How does that work? Like, how did nobody that I don't know. This dude, he had to be from the G League or something because I didn't touch any of those guys. Whatever. He's 73 overall NBA first team. So that's gonna make things a little bit interesting, I think. But we got Luka Doncic here still, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, and LeBron James on the All-NBA first team. Allen Iverson, Magic Johnson, Giannis, Tim Duncan, and Kareem on the second team. Clyde Drexler, Tracy McGrady, Kevin Garnett, Karl Malone, and Moses Malone on the third team. So those teams look a little bit different, obviously, with this guy there. But they look a little bit different than they did the year before, or the era before, I guess. All right, and then the season standings change up a little bit too. I wonder if this is affected by having more teams in the NBA in this era or not. But we still have the modern era Milwaukee Bucks as the best team in the NBA this season. Then the Jordan era did a little bit better than the Kobe era did. But then the Magic versus Bird era is still the lowest seed team in this year's playoffs. All right, so yeah, here are your playoff standings. The only thing that really changed is that the Bulls are the second seed instead of the Lakers this era. So yeah, let's jump into the conference finals because that's where we're going to see our teams face each other. And I'm going to do things a little bit differently. I'm going to keep it like it did last time. If there's a Game 7 in the conference finals, I'll try to jump into that. But then for the NBA finals, I am going to, go game by game simcast and see if there's a close game. Right now, the modern era is up 3-1 on the Magic versus Bird era, and Jordan and Kobe eras are tied at 2-2. The modern era makes it to the NBA finals once again, and then the Jordan era is up on the Kobe era 3-2, and they go to the NBA finals once again. So the same finals matchup as what we had the last era. So I wasn't sure how much the different eras was going to affect the standings and how they perform in the playoffs and stuff like that. I thought it would affect it a little bit with the different rule changes and things like that. But so far, basically the same result. You can see that the modern era dominated game 1. Jordan era up big in game 2, although the modern era is keeping it pretty close. Jordan era is still up by a pretty sizable deficit. Oh, okay, it's really close now. In the late fourth quarter, it's actually... Okay, so up 3... yeah, let's jump into this. Modern era is up by 4 after the Luka Doncic free throws. Looks like we got Clyde Drexler bringing the ball up the court. Jordan trying to get down low on Luka. Luka steals it. And then you got Durant bringing the ball up the court down to Giannis, driving on Jordan. He scores with no trouble at all, bringing the modern era up 6 points. Still got Clyde Drexler bringing the ball up the court and running the same play, basically, but it actually works this time. Oh, Jordan just shakes Luka completely, makes him stumble off of the post move. You don't see that very often, but if anyone can do it, Jordan can. All right, Luka bringing the ball up the court now. Modern era is still up 4. Running that isolation offense with Luka Doncic, and it's definitely working so far for them as he gets a wide open mid-range jump shot, putting him back up 6. Jordan now bringing the ball up the court with 1:10 remaining, putting the moves on Luka, driving on him, gets the mid-range jumper off the backboard and in. That is Michael Jordan if I've ever seen it. No LeBron on the court, but they're running everything through Luka still. And Luka steps back 3, misses that one. Less than a minute to go. Bulls really got to push it up the court here if they want to be able to win this game. Now you have Clyde Drexler taking it on Durant, and they get it to a wide open Larry Bird for the mid-range jump shot, but he misses it. Somehow that was 42% covered. I don't see how. Now they're going to foul. We're not going to watch the free throws happen. That's not that interesting. So let's see if this changes anything. Yeah, Modern Era takes it. So Modern Era takes game 2, and they're up 2-0 now against the Bulls. So far, similar results to what we had last time. This is a pretty close game, but Modern Era opens it up, and they end up making it a blowout. So with the Modern Era is up 3-0 on the Jordan Era, we may not get another close game here. And yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to be. So Modern Era sweep the Jordan Era in the finals in the Jordan Era. Again, Luka Doncic wins the Finals MVP this time. So yeah, that's 2 for 2 for the Modern Era in terms of championships. So you know that's a pretty big lead, but you know it could change, especially when we get into the Modern Era and I'm able to adjust the divisions and stuff like that. I don't know how much of a difference that's actually going to make, but we'll see what happens. All right, at the end of the Kobe era simulation, Larry Bird wins MVP again. So 3 for 3 for MVPs for Larry Bird. Carlos Boozer, Rookie of the Year. Clyde Drexler is the 6th man, so not Kevin Garnett this time, but Clyde Drexler. David Robinson wins another Defensive Player of the Year, and Luka's the most improved as well again. Here are your All-NBA first teams. Once again, things are a little bit different, you know, especially now that you don't have that random guy in here, but you have Shaquille O'Neal making an All-NBA first team, I think, for the first time since we've started doing this. But yeah, Michael Jordan, Luka Doncic, Larry Bird, LeBron James, and Shaquille O'Neal on the first team. On the second team, you have Drexler, Allen Iverson, Garnett, Antetokounmpo, Jokic. And then on the third team, you got Kobe, Magic, the other Larry Bird, so that's interesting, Tim Duncan, and Kareem on the third team. All right, and as far as team records go, things are a little bit different this time. Actually, quite a bit different. I think everything has changed here. The Kobe era gets the best record at 80-2, then followed by the Modern Era. Then the Magic versus Bird era, and the Jordan era was actually the worst team in this era. So that's really interesting. So this is the Kobe era, and this is the biggest shakeup we've had so far in terms of records. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. I don't know if it's going to affect the playoffs at all, but it definitely changes things up a little bit. All right, so like I said, as you can see, the Lakers are the 1 seed, followed by the Modern Era Bucks, the Magic versus Bird Era Celtics, and then the Jordan Era Chicago Bulls. But yeah, let's get into the conference finals and see, you know, who is going to face who. So yeah, now we have the Kobe. So actually, it's the same. I just realized this. It's the same matchups in the conference finals. It's just they're switched. So you have, you know, it's the same. It's just that they're on different sides of the bracket this time, which is kind of funny. But yeah, let's go game by game here and see if either of these get to game 7, and if they do, we'll jump in. So far, we have basically the same matchups happening right now. So you have the Jordan era up 3-1 versus Kobe era, Modern era up 3-1 versus Magic versus Bird era, and yeah, the Modern era in the finals once again. Kobe era gets game 5, or what would that be? It doesn't really matter. It's the same matchup again. So yeah, I mean, 3 eras in and the same finals matchup for the 3rd time in a row. So that's, I don't know. That's I guess it makes sense because we have the same teams. I thought it would make more of a difference with the different play styles of every era affecting things. But hey, man, if you're good, you're good. And the Modern era, oh, this is into overtime. I somehow missed the fact that this went into overtime. And the Jordan era is up 4 at the end, near the end of the overtime. Okay, so let's just jump in here then, and catch some of this. All right, so we've got Larry Bird passing the ball in. The Jordan era has the ball here. Drexler handling the ball, driving on Luka, gets all the way to the rim and dunks it, no problem. No resistance there at all. And now the Jordan era is up 6 points near the end of overtime. LeBron driving on Larry Bird, passes out to Giannis, who gets a dunk down low. Looks like, okay, so we got Jordan out there with Drexler, David Robinson, Karl Malone, and Larry Bird. And Jordan, highly contested shot against Joel Embiid, and draws the foul. Goes to the free throw line for 2 shots, makes the first one. You know, Jordan's got ice in his veins. Makes the second one, I'm presuming. Yep. And now they are up by 8 points. No, never mind, 6 points still. So it's looking like it's probably out of reach here with only 45 seconds to go in the overtime. LeBron just wasting time here. Really got to do better than that, but he does do pretty well by getting the and one on David Robinson. So you got LeBron and Jordan kind of controlling the game down here the stretch. LeBron with the clutch free throw to bring it within 3 points. But there's only 35 seconds left in overtime. I think the Jordan era should be milking the clock a little bit, but Drexler goes right around Luka Doncic once again. Luka, obviously not the best defender there is. LeBron with the fadeaway 3. They got Steph Curry on the court. Why didn't they try to get it to him for a 3-point shot? And yeah, it looks like they're just going to be fouling out here, or fouling the rest of the game out. So yeah, it looks like Jordan era takes game 1 in overtime. That was pretty surprising because they were getting beat. It looked like pretty thoroughly, and then they came back and forced it overtime and won it in that overtime period. Looks like that's not going to happen in game 2 though, as the modern era is up by like 15 points. They stretch it out to like a 19-point win. Let's see. Jordan era is up in game 3. Still pretty close though. Okay, so really close. Tied with 1 minute 7 to go. Let's jump in here as well. That's exciting. We're actually getting a lot of games we can jump into. All right, Joel Embiid at the free throw line with 1:07 remaining. Tied at 1:09. He makes the first free throw and makes the second free throw. Joel Embiid, obviously a really good free throw shooter, gets a lot of his points from there. They got John Stockton out there with Bird, Drexler, Robinson, and Jordan's not out there. Malone's out there. So they are not playing Michael Jordan right now in the final minutes of a big game. Steph Curry shakes Drexler loose, goes for the pull-up mid-range jump shot, misses it, but Antetokounmpo's there for the rebound and the putback, and that brings them up by 4 points. 38 seconds to go. Jordan's got to do something here, but Jordan's not on the court. But Drexler, gets Karl Malone open for 3, who takes it in the corner but misses it. Karl Malone not known for his 3-point shooting. And yeah, it looks like it's going to be another, playing for the foul situation here. So, yeah, we got another win by the modern era here. And they go up 2-1 in this series. Let's see. Can the Jordan era come back and tie the series up here in game 4? They get off to an early lead. And the modern era takes the lead back and doesn't look like they're going to give it up. Nope, they are up big time here. So they're up 3-1 once again. Can the Jordan era come back from down 3-1. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. Yeah, so far, Modern Era has won every championship. And it's been the Modern Era versus the Jordan Era every single time. We're going to do the last one just for, the sake of doing it because we got this far. But yeah, I mean, definitively the Modern Era is the best era in 2K23. But just to be thorough, we're gonna go and do the Modern Era as well. Why not? All right, here we are at the end of the Modern Era simulation, and Larry Bird once again is the MVP. So that's it's interesting how the MVP has not changed at all. Sixth Man of the Year goes to Clyde Drexler once again, and David Robinson gets Defensive Player of the Year again. Here are your All-NBA first teams, and yeah, I guess Miles Bridges, that does make sense because I didn't do anything with the free agents, so he would be the best player in the NBA, not on one of the all eras teams. So that's I guess that's funny. So you have Michael Jordan, Luka Doncic, Larry Bird, and Kareem on the All-NBA first team. Drexler, Kobe, Giannis, LeBron, and Jokic on the second team. Magic, T-Mac, Tim Duncan, Larry Bird, and Shaquille O'Neal on the third team. So those are your All-NBA teams for the Modern Era. All right, and this time I was able to put them all in the same division, so they would play each other the most often. But as you can see, it didn't really change the standings that much. It's actually the same as it was the first simulation we did. The records are a little bit different, but the standings are the same. So you have the Bucks and the Lakers actually have the same record, but the Bucks probably had a higher points per game average. Yeah. And then you have the Jordan era, and then you have the Magic versus Bird era here. So, same results. I mean, similar results at least. Even you have two teams tying for the first record in the NBA. But it's pretty similar there as well, with the Bucks being the best team once again. And of course, here is your playoff bracket. We're going to simulate to the conference finals, of course, once again to see what the matchups are. So once again, it gets like it has been every single time so far. The matchups are exactly the same, with the Modern Era facing the Magic versus Bird era, the Kobe era facing the Jordan era. I'm a little surprised. Okay, so for the first time, I accidentally hit simulate round, but neither of them were close. For the first time, the Kobe era is in the finals. So that's really, I don't know, maybe we'll have an upset for the first time. It'd be really funny if the Modern Era did not win in the Modern Era. But yeah, the Kobe era swept Jordan era 4-0 in the conference finals. And the Modern Era went 4-1 against the Magic versus Bird era. So yeah, let's see what happens now with a different finals matchup than we've seen so far. In the Kobe era, up early in game 1, and looks like it's gonna be fairly close, but not super close. Let's see if it gets any closer here. Yeah, looks like the Kobe era. Yeah, okay, so Kobe era takes game 1. Modern Era got a little bit close near the end there. On to game 2, and a little bit more of a back and forth early on. Let's see. Yeah, really close game. Okay, I don't know. I didn't slow it down fast enough, but you can see what happened there. Modern Era takes game 2. Let's go into game 3. And Kobe era up early once again. Stretching the lead out pretty well here. Yeah, it doesn't look like Modern Era is going to be able to come back to this one, and they do not. So Kobe era up 2-1 on the Modern Era in the Modern Era, which is fascinating. Can the Modern Era tie it up 2-2 here? They got the lead here, and looks like they're going to be able to turn that into a blowout. So Modern Era ties it up 2-2, heading into Game 5 here. Definitely the closest finals series we've had so far. And looks like they continue being close here. High scoring game. But the Kobe Era blows the doors off in the fourth quarter, putting up 38 points to the Modern Era's 18. And we could possibly have our first different champion of this video if the Kobe Era close this one out. And it's close. It's still pretty close. Oh, geez, I that was close near the end there, but I didn't see it. But the Lakers, the Kobe Era, winning the championship in the Modern Era. So that's not what I expected. I was like, ready to say that it's going to be a 4-0 sweep by the Modern Era. But there we go. So that's 3 championships for Modern Era and 1 for the Kobe Era. So that's not what I expected. I'm gonna tally up the overall records of everyone, and then who had the most All NBA players and stuff like that here in a second. All right, so I tallied up every team's regular season record as well, just to see if that has any correlation to the success they had in playoffs as well. So finishing in 4th place, we have the Magic versus Bird Era, who went 302-26 in the regular season, followed by the Jordan Era, who went 306-22, and then the Kobe Era with 312-16, and then the Modern Era with 316-12. So it kind of shook out the same way as we saw it here. The Modern Era winning 3 championships, the Kobe Era winning 1 championship. And their overall regular season records kind of reflect that. The only thing that's interesting is that the Kobe Era only went to 1 NBA Finals and they won it, whereas the Jordan Era went to 3 NBA Finals and lost. So I'm not sure what you find more valuable. I think winning the championship is more valuable than going to it 3 times. But that's still really impressive. And then when you go to the All NBA selections, so I tried to do this in a way that made sense. So I awarded 3 points for every All-NBA first team selection, 2 points for every All-NBA second team selection, and then 1 point for every All-NBA third team selection. So just an interesting note here, the Modern Era had the most first and second team selections at 7 each. So you could probably tell who's going to have the highest, total number that way. And then the Kobe Era had the most All-NBA third team selections with 9. So the Jordan Era finished finished 4th in this ranking. And they got 23 points, which is oddly fitting because it's Jordan Era. And then the Kobe Era actually finished 3rd with 24 points, also fitting with the Kobe Era. And then the Magic versus Bird Era had 27 points here. And then, of course, the Modern Era just was way ahead of everyone with 36 points there. So it's interesting. So you have the Larry Bird representing the Magic versus Bird Era, winning every MVP. And then they have the second most All-NBA selections. So, but they never made a finals, probably because they kept going up against the Modern Era the Modern Era Bucks. So I think it's interesting. They had the best individual performances, but the worst team performance. So I don't know what you want to read into there. But yeah, this is kind of fascinating. I think we kind of determined that the Modern Era team in 2K23 is the best. Which again, I mean, if you just look through the roster, they had the highest overall players. So that's usually going to get you championships and stuff like that in 2K23. But yeah, if you thought this was interesting, go ahead and hit that like button. If you want to see more stuff like this, give me a comment below so I know what you want to see. and then subscribe so you can see what I come up with next. And if you don't want to do any of those things, go on a nice walk. It's fall time. It's beautiful weather, depending on where you live at. Enjoy the changing of the colors and stuff like that. But yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one. Bye.